going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome to the Eternal Sith Network. Today we're going to be talking about the Mandalorian, but before we do get into it, remember, hit the subscribe, like, and notification bell so you're always in the know on everything Star Wars here on the channel. Don't forget, I have a membership program and a merch store, and stay tuned as I'm going to be having new merch come out pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that. And also, when you're done watching this video, go check out my last one. Give it a thumbs up as you watch. Let's start the show. Mandalorian, which essentially began as an episodic weekly adventure series in season 1, has now become the launch pad for an entire era of storytelling for Star Wars to better explain the events that transpired during the New Republic's relatively brief, reign. This era will culminate in Dave Filoni's Mandalorian movie, which will presumably finish in the Heir to the Empire storyline by combining The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and even the Star Wars' new series that's supposed to be coming out later this year, Skeleton Crew. Now, the Mandoverse has the potential to become as, intricate and compelling as the High Republic era and old expanded universe stories, and an extensive historical account for everything that's going on in the galaxy during that time. Now, with a lot of the crossovers, there is some concern on how things could go wrong. While Star Wars crossover desires are admirable, the franchise does need to be very, very cautious. The more complicated a story becomes, the harder it is to keep track of everything that has transpired so far, especially when numerous writers and creatives are involved in these projects. Now, while each property should be free to explore new creative impulses and cultivate a unique atmosphere, the overarching story does need to stay consistent and logical with everything that has gone on in the Star Wars canon. Disney Plus and Star Wars has already failed at that a little bit in that regard. Now, by having Din and Grogu reunite in the Book of Boba Fett as opposed to The Mandalorian Season 3, their story had become less cohesive, and Boba Fett was overshadowed in his own series. Now, this also leads to the other issue that could spell trouble for the future. And the more the Mandoverse expands and the more complicated it does become, people will be a little bit less interactive with these shows, because now you're just kind of like throwing different things that aren't really adding up to the story. And that's why I use the Mando with reuniting with Grogu with the Book of Boba Fett for one of the examples, because that is very pivotal. That was supposed to be something where we saw the two of them reunite in season 3 of The Mandalorian, but instead ended up happening in the Book of Boba Fett, which takes away the value from the show. And that's why you even saw in this season, it didn't hit as well as it should have, and it didn't have that much meaning to the season. As yes, we understood that we needed to go back to Mandalore and restore it, and that's going to be the plan for the future, and that was the storyline. But the original storyline was supposed to be that Mando did go back and, again, retrieve Grogu. We know that the more the Mandoverse does expand, the more complicated it does become when telling all these stories in this time period, and more people will be forced to watch, unfortunately, if they want to keep up with everything that is going on. However, though, if any franchise with some viewers are only interested, though, in a certain point of view from the storyline, they're not really always interested in the whole thing. And people who only want to watch The Mandalorian should be able to do so without missing a core relationship beat. For instance, people who are interested in Ahsoka will be missing a massive amount of context if they haven't watched Star Wars Rebels. And that's why I say, Lucasfilm, you need to be careful when you're doing your TV shows or movies, so that way everything stays on track when you're telling your story and doesn't veer off and get a little bit confusing, because again, the average person is not going to want to watch everything that is out that is canon. And that's why, again, when Natasha Liu Bordizzle talks about the Ahsoka series and how you don't need to watch Rebels, that if you watch the show alone, you'll kind of be caught up or you'll understand it. that's cool and all, but for the diehard Star Wars fan, you want to watch Rebels because, again, it is going to be a touch of everything that's going on, but there's so much content out there that even with just the Clone Wars alone as well, that's going to definitely be a key part because, again, Ahsoka's character is something from the Clone Wars as far back, and not everybody has watched the Clone Wars. People that you have fans out there that just simply watch the movies and shows and that's it, and not the animated shows, because there are a lot. And that's why I feel like when they are doing these things, they need to make sure that their story is compelling and that it goes straight and doesn't veer off into anything else. But comment down below, when it comes to the Mandoverse, do you think that they have gone overboard with the crossover events, or do you think that they need more right before we do go into Dave Filoni's movie that is supposed to be titled Heir to the Empire? Let me know, light it up. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. For more Star Wars content, hit the subscribe, like, and notification bell so you're always in the know as I have more content out tomorrow. Don't forget I have a membership program as well as a merch store. And as always, the Eternal Sith, then, now, forever. Later, guys.